For me, it totally depends on the industry. It totally depends on the field. It totally depends on what you do. Because I know for tech companies, it's all about remote work. If you're a programmer, if you're a software developer, computer engineer, or a cloud, let's say administrator,
37% of remote workers report higher productivity, but 55% of business leaders say in-office work boosts the collaboration. Only 55% says for collaboration at the office.
I'm a believer of scalability and finding the best talent in the best location. So anywhere in the world, thanks to various freelancer platforms, we can find and connect and work with some top superstars.
But sometimes at night, when I go, let's say past 6 p.m., my brain doesn't want to do like the same type of work that I can do in the morning. So this way I can balance that, and I'm fortunate and I really appreciate that I can manage my schedule. Hello and welcome everybody to Make Tech Work, Unplug Entrepreneurs. We're here to talk about different topics. Today, it's going to be about office work versus remote work. So it's a big topic. It's a big trend. People are talking about it since the pandemic. So today, that's going to be our strong topic, and we'll try to cover it up and we'll share our opinions and what we think about in the tech world versus SMBs, big corporations, whatever. We'll try to cover as much as possible in the shortest time as possible. So are you ready, Mo?
I am ready to rock and roll. Let's go.
Let's dive it right away. So remote work versus office work. Okay, let's go straight.
All right.
I'm doing remote work for a long time, almost 10 years, if not more. So I'm a big fan of it. And when people are saying it's less productive, obviously I'm working even more since I'm working from my home office. And I'm doing more and I'm more productive on different ways. And I like going for a run during the middle of the day and I work late. So for me, it's all remote work. So before going into details, what about you, Mo? What's your position? Don't say it depends. We don't like the it depends answer.
Unfortunately, it is what it is.
Go ahead. I'll listen to you.
All right, Steve. So I'll tell you my position, and thank you so much for sharing yours. For me, it totally depends on the industry. It totally depends on the field. It totally depends on what you do. Because I know for tech companies, it's all about remote work. If you're a programmer, if you're a software developer, computer engineer, or a cloud, let's say administrator, you can do the work remotely. And I also believe from any place in the world. You just need to have a stable internet connection and you can show us your magic, show us the power that you have and share with the team the task that you're working on. I have a good communication style and just make it work. I'm really a huge believer of the idea of productivity, outcome, goals, tasks. How many tasks can you do per day? What are the additional values that you can bring to the table? Did you finish the feature? Or did you reach that objective? So we're going to have different milestones that will enable us to not track, but to measure the success of each one of, let's say, the individuals that we are working with. So that's the remote position. In terms of the office, so we have so many companies like furniture companies or manufacturers where being there is a must because you have to work with the tools, you have to work with the material, you have to be there, you have to do a 3D design of these goods and these different materials that you are working with. So being there is very important to see the end goal, to see the end product, to visualize what's happening in that environment, and that makes sense. Also, we have some jobs where face-to-face conversation is very important. So let's say IT sales or sales engineering, for example, where you need to present in an office environment to show your product, to demonstrate a new device. So being there in an office environment is very important, especially if you are going to welcome a new client to the office or you're going to visit the client in their particular headquarters, in their particular location. So it totally depends. And it's always a good idea to go with the most productive based on data. I am really not an emotional guy when it comes to business. I'm a very pragmatic individual. I am a data-driven personality individual. So show me the data. Remote work is good for company A. Why? When? How? Do you have some data? Do you have historical data? What are the revenues that we reached in 2014? What are the projected revenues that we are going to reach in 2025? Why do you say so? What is your growth rate? What are the numerical variables that you are using? Show me your main idea. Show me the data that will back it up. And then let's go and let's do it together. So it's all about that idea, Steve. And perhaps I would also take a moment to ask you a question, Steve. I know that you love questions. You said the remote. You said I'm all about remote. Of course, for your case, I think it's amazing. But why, based on your experience, do you love remote? And why do you think so many IT companies and tech entrepreneurs should aim for remote in their daily work?
Yeah, before going there, I'd like to give you some stats because you asked for stats and I did
Oh,
some research before starting that podcast. So,
let's
like
go.
I always do. So, let's read this. So, remote productivity 77% of remote workers report higher productivity, but 55% of business leaders say in office work boosts the collaboration. Only
Wow.
55% says for collaboration
Mhm.
at the office. Second stat, the retention factor. 74% of employees say flexible work makes them less likely to quit. Yeah,
Mhm.
but we don't know it's because they do other stuff and the job is easier. So we don't know yet.
Oh,
Hybrid
yeah.
reality. So 58% of companies are shifting to hybrid models because neither extreme works for everyone. So I think that this one is more like going to your, it depends. So if you have, example, 2 days at work, 3 days at home, you can be very productive at home and set up
Mm.
your day in a way that makes sense to you. And I will answer your question right after. And going at the office to do some collaboration work. So, and I think it makes sense for certain things. Obviously, a manufacturer, there is no doubt that they have to be there, except if they are like doing part-time hands-on work and part-time thinking and planning. But in terms of typical situations, like for me, since I started to be, example, when I started as an engineer 30 years ago, almost 30 years ago, uh, I I was saying to my friend, I said, I would love to take a nap right after lunch and be ready to go there for long, long ways. And you know what? This is something that since I work from home, sometimes I do. And then
Oh.
when I do that, I'm cutting the day in half or in two,
Mhm.
whatever the part, and I'm
Right.
willing to go very long after that. And if, for example, I go for a run, when I come back, I have new ideas and I'm listening about what I'm running, so I'm learning new things. I'm not doing
Mhm.
anything, and this way, when I come back, I have new ideas. I'm taking some notes. I'm doing my work, and I work later. And this way, overall, I'm more productive. So mental health is a big thing. I don't
Mhm.
have any issues, but that could be because of the way I'm dealing. And also, you are working on things that, in my case, when my brain is in a certain mode, I'm good at doing this. But sometimes at night, when I go, let's say, past 6 p.m., my brain doesn't want to do like the same type of work that I can do in the morning. So this way I
True.
can balance that. And I'm fortunate and I really appreciate that I can manage my schedule my way with my projects. And also, what I like to add is I'm dealing with collaborators all around the world. I mean, locally and overseas, and they are freelancers or agencies dealing with freelancers who work from home. So essentially, we have a chain or a hierarchy of people working from home and
Mm.
engage with contracts. So these freelancers, they need to deliver to the agency with a contract and they send a payroll. I don't know if they have a payroll. Some have a payroll, some are dealing with contracts, and the
Mhm.
agency has a contract with one of my companies. And
Mhm.
with that, I can be sure that everybody will deliver the work because it's not like having an employee who you need to manage it. You need to have payroll. You need to have all these things that are related to that. I have employees too, but I'm trying to reduce that and make that when they are very critical to the business.
Yeah.
Employee for sure, in-person talking. I'm with you on that for sure. But in terms of the overall efficiency of building something that is very strong, uh, that's the new way of doing things. This is my company of one. I didn't invent that, but I believe in it. And also building processes, as we discuss quite often, where it all work this way. And this way you reduce the headache of dealing with human resources. Unfortunately, I said it. I'm a pragmatic person as well.
You are, yeah.
This is my take on that. So
Absolutely. Absolutely, Steve. And I think you perhaps share some of the same ideas that I do because I'm a believer of scalability and finding the best talent in the best location. So anywhere in the world, thanks to various freelancer platforms, we can find and connect and work with some top superstars, top talents who can bring a lot of value in terms of programming, in terms of graphic design, in terms of building AI tools. So these individuals can only be reached if you work online. If you work in an office, how can you bring them in your country and you go through the visa process and all that stuff? So just an internet connection, a computer, and here you are connected to the best talent in the world. And Steve, I think you wanted to say something.
Yeah, it makes me laugh, Mo, because do you recall how we met?
Yeah, absolutely.
This
So
is
you
exactly
see,
it. This is exactly it. So yeah,
absolutely. So
and you're right. We found great talent. So I found
yeah,
you, and now we are doing this thing together. So that's so far it's a nice story that will become a great story, I believe.
absolutely, Steve. It's gonna
Sorry
be
for the
a
interruption. I wanted to mention that. So it
no.
was a good anecdote, I believe.
I think so. It was a great one, Steve, and I'm always happy that you're sharing with our audience some stories and to make it really relatable to our day-to-day activities, etc. Maybe, Steve, this is a side note, but I think it's going to be a little bit entertaining for our listeners. So, Steve, let me ask you a question that is related to remote work. So, you said that when you go to a run, you come back with new ideas, with innovative ideas. So tell us a little bit about that process and how did you discover that running enables you to brainstorm and how can this be implemented in an office environment?
Interesting. That's very remote. Yeah, I'm a big book reader, or I should say, book listener. I'm listening to books through Audible on my car when I'm doing some work at home or around the house, and running, skiing, sometimes mountain biking, but it's not the same thing. That can be a bit risky. It depends, or maybe road biking more than mountain biking. So. And road biking in a park where there is no cars, by the way. So just to be clear. So with this, for me, I see that as more like a meditation kind of, where I'm in the woods, I'm running, and my brain is focusing on the book that and I'm listening and not folding my ankles as well, but mainly the book. And with the book, they're always giving tips. So I'm making links with those tips
Mm,
and ideas with business one, business two, business three, and even
wow.
customer, how I can do these things. And the worst thing, which is I'm going to start with the worst, is sometimes I don't remember all my ideas, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's
So
the
this is
issue.
why sometimes I'm speaking loudly in the woods alone, repeating that thing to make sure I don't forget it. And when I get home, I took Microsoft OneNote and I take a note and take my tablet to make sure I don't forget it. And I mean, it's a process that comes by itself.
Wow.
And for me, and the way I started it is I didn't want to leave work. I'm a hard worker, so I didn't want to leave work to go for a run because I was feeling I was not working. So listening
Mm,
to books made me alleviate that and say, okay, I'm still working because I'm learning, because I'm an avid learner, I'm a forever learner, and I'm building an education platform to guide more entrepreneurs, and that's coming very, very soon.
true.
And all these things make sense to me. So we're reading books, learning new stuff, running, and obviously it brings dopamine, endorphin, and my brain is feeling better afterwards. Nice shower, short rest, and ready to tackle the rest of the day and be productive and bring more stuff to our entrepreneurs. This is my
Wow, that's
mission.
amazing. That's amazing, Steve. Wow, I love that. And I shared the same perhaps tips with you. So and for me, it's not perhaps about creativity. It's about when I'm struggling. So let's say I'm working on a development project or a cloud computing project, and I'm struggling a little bit with the configuration or with the deployment. Something is bugging me in my tech stack. I just automatically, without thinking about it, I go for a 10K run, 15K run, 21K run, just to relax. So for me, it's a relaxation method. It enables me to relax. And after running, I have this amazing feeling of peacefulness where the world is so
So you
beautiful.
want to work remote then? So
Yeah. Absolutely. But I think inside an office, they can also implement this. I'm a very creative individual, and I'm thinking, what about having a treadmill, having a gym or a facility inside the workspace or the workplace where individuals can go and they can just relax a little bit, and just feel themselves, or feel that they are really feeling their energy back to themselves. Because the idea here is running and the gym. And I know so many people who are into kickboxing, into, let's say, martial arts. If they can have a remote space where they can, or I said the remote, I'm always thinking about the remote work already, if they can have a workspace and a gym space, and they can just go there and practice something that they do. So running, treadmills, biking, doing some weight, kickboxing, sparring, any one of the activities that they normally do in their free time, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour. Let's just call it the gym time. They can do that, and they can come back with ideas, and the productivity of the organization will increase. So obviously we need to do some research about that. So we need to collect some data. We need to do some really, really good data. And it's all about connecting to the human body from a intellectual level. So I always believe it's about moving your body. The more that you move, the more energy you will have, etc. And especially nowadays, in an office environment, you rarely move from one place to another. So if you can have a facility inside your organization, you can do great. And what do you think about that,
They
Steve?
they proved it. They like a
Oh,
15, 20 minute, the 15, 20 minute light run
yeah.
improves the capacity and capability of the brain. They did that with, if I remember correctly, with an exam, like the same test for people that they went for a run. People are not, when they didn't go for a run, and they have a big samples
Wow.
of people, and they realized that they were performing well. 15 to 20 minutes of a light run. Not if it is too intense, that could be a problem. That could go against you. And if it's too long, the same thing. So basically, 15, 20 minutes light, you're just, slow jogging, whatever the level of fitness you have, and that improves your brain power, my friend. So that's, and going back to your problem thing, I am a big fan of that too, because
Oh.
sometimes if you have a stressful situation, it's okay, you don't necessarily know where to go, what to do. I'm just escaping. And it
Mm.
sounds like, okay, I'm avoiding the problem. No, I'm changing my mind to come back to the problem with fresh eyes, with fresh brain. And the famous story I hear a lot, so I'm sorry if I repeat it for some people, but Bannister, the guy who broke the mile within 4 minutes. Do you know that
Wow.
story? No?
I don't. I would love
No?
to hear it, Steve.
Okay, so maybe with all the books I read, I see that, and I read it so many times that I'm feeling like a broken record. Bannister, he was very close to beat the record of, or the threshold, or the going the mile under 4 minutes. And he did like a few attempts, maybe two publicly. I guess he did some privately, and he failed by 1 second or something. And the people were, for the third attempt or something like that, people were hoping that he would break it that time. So people came, and they were following the training, they were following at everything. And the weekend before, or not too long before doing that event, he went camping with friends. He didn't train,
Oh,
he just went for camping and just
interesting.
realized different things. He came back, go back to the training, and he did the event, and he broke the record.
Wow.
So
That's
that was very amazing. So basically, people believe that working hard all the time will make it work.
Mhm.
Yes, working hard with talent will make it work, but sometimes you need to take a pause for your brain, for your body. By the way, the brain is part of the body, so you need to have a nice body to have a nice brain, and I say nice, I
Absolutely.
mean healthy body. So this is
Yeah.
one story about the Bannister, mile breaking time. But the other part of the story, which is not related exactly to it, but I'm going to say it anyways, is Bannister, when he broke it, nobody did that before him. But after that,
Mm.
and still today, more and more people break it all the time. So basically,
Interesting.
when people see that something is doable, it's possible, they can do it. So
Mm.
that's something that we can even have in a different podcast, where when you believe in
Interesting.
something, you'll make it happen. If you don't believe in
Mm.
it, in the back of your mind, even if you say you do, you won't do it. So anyways, another piece of information. But the Bannister thing is, it's in line with what we're talking, Mo, is being remote, being able to escape in the right way and come back stronger. For me, it works quite often.
That's amazing, Steve. That's amazing. I know that we're going to be talking about the belief system in the next episode, but I am 100% with you. I believe it's if you have a growth mindset, you will be able to achieve more and do a lot of things in your day. And that's something that I noticed. And I saw so many times when perhaps I'm having conversations with different colleagues of mine or different business partners of mine. Anytime that I hear something good, a good news or something that is good that happened to them, it really motivates me. I feel so happy for them. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. So this is achievable. So this is an individual that I know, that I trust, that we shared so many moments together. They reached this objective. Wow, that's amazing. And they can definitely share some tips with me, some tricks with me. And I think as a human beings, inspiration is very important. But of course, hard work, dedication, putting in the hours. I'm a believer of work ethics. So it's always a good idea to work without having that perhaps shortcut mentality. You can do a lot. You can do a lot. If and perhaps one of the things that I would like to share, Steve, is sometimes in a work environment, it might be a little bit difficult to focus if you are interrupted. So especially if you are a programmer, I myself am a programmer, a software developer. So when I'm programming, I like to be in a focus mode, long hours, focus, just writing the code, building the application, deploying the application, putting the application together. But if I am in an office environment and let's say my colleagues, they want to talk to me, they want to have a conversation, which is amazing. I love people. I love having conversation with people. That interruption sometimes, it's a reset to my brain. I'm like, oof,
Yeah.
I have to go back again. So I think it depends on the personality. And currently we have a box and we're trying to fit people in that box. Hey man, the world is very complex and you cannot just put people in boxes and expect them to perform. And I would love to know or to ask you, Steve, what do you think about that?
There are some statistics about that too. When you work and you are in the flow, working on something like programming or designing or even developing an innovative business model, like I like to do, if you are just interrupted for a few seconds because of an SMS, an email, a DM, a direct message, or whatever, it's crazy. It takes, if my memory is right, it takes at least 23 minutes to go back to the state you were before getting the interruption. And I think it's even longer than that. So let's say 23 minutes is a safe bet. So, but switching thing, because I said at the beginning of the podcast that we would talk about also cooperation. So what we see in the media is mainly about Google doing this with remote work, Meta doing this, and NVIDIA or all those big players. So what's your take on cooperation versus remote work, hybrid work, and be at the office 5 days? Because we see so different things. For me, corporation versus SMEs, SMBs, which is more of our crowd. So what's your position or what's your take on this corporate world?
Absolutely, Steve. I love the question. For me, I'm all about testing. So I believe in test-driven implementation inside organizations and big corporations. So let's say, for example, an employee comes to you and you're the manager, Steve, and that employee will ask you, hey, Steve, I believe I will really, really, really do a great job if I work from home. So obviously, there is a motivation there from that employee that he or she is willing to work from home. They're trying to work from home. But as an individual, as a corporation, as a corporate entity, we need to have a test-driven approach. So we will say the following. Let's take 3 months, you work from home, and let's measure your productivity. So how many features are you going, for example, if you're a software developer, how many features are you going to develop? How many bugs are you going to fix? So we're going to measure your productivity during those 3 months. And if your productivity is better than the previous 3 months, all right, we're convinced, congratulations, because the goal is for us to make more money, increase the market capitalization, the market share, get bigger, compete in a better way, like just be the best corporations that develops XYZ in the world, for example, like let's say product XYZ, which is an example. So I'm always thinking about show me the data, prove me wrong. I trust you. There is no issue. There is a trust between us, but I need to see some data because double checking and triple checking is important. I always say that. And of course, if you have some data to back it up, it is important. So I see a lot of corporations, Steve, and correct me if I'm wrong, in the news currently, they're always thinking about go back to the office. And for me, I would love to see in these perhaps implementations some data points. What happened when individuals were perhaps working remotely, and do we have any comparisons? So before and after, because I know most of these companies perhaps they're doing well, especially with the AI revolution, and of course that can change over time depending on the market landscape. But as far as I'm concerned, I think it totally depends on the data that we see from each department, each business unit, each individual. So if you have data that will...
I'd like to challenge you, Mo, on this right away, knowing that your upload is having an issue right now. So with a corporation, as you said at the beginning, there are some differences. For software programming, if they work in the agile style of project management, they can really know exactly what happens and what's being done in a sprint. How many things they're fixing, how many, whatever, depending on the priority and the level of effort, you can all calculate that. So for me, and that type of work is, I would say it's easier to quantify it. But in certain cases, your data vision doesn't work really, really well. So how would you approach something that somebody does some document writing? Translation is easy because you go word by word. So I think that in certain cases, I don't have an idea on which type, but that could be difficult to get the data. So would you go with a hybrid mode, all in office, still remote, and trust the people without having ways of quantifying it? So leave studio. So we have an issue here. I guess we'll do some editing.
I'm here. Yes.
We'll have to do some editing.
Absolutely. No worries, Steve. Where did we stop?
Yeah. So basically, I think what I said is going to be recorded, so we're fine. I was challenging you on the fact that like a software programmer,
I got you.
With the KPIs, with the agile way of managing the project, they can figure out the performance. But what happens with jobs where people are managing others or they are doing things, so it's less quantifiable. So
what is an example of a job like that, Steve, so I can provide you with some input?
That's interesting. Example, somebody is managing projects.
Perfect. So
he's a project manager. So we can really quantify his team. But what about him or her?
Absolutely, Steve. So for project management, it's all about deliverables. So how many projects are being delivered during that 3 months time span? And because the employee is quite, let's say, somebody that spends some time with the firm, we can easily identify their normal output. So for every employee, I believe there is input and there is output. And the output is what can they produce in an environment. So if you are a marketing manager, what are the marketing campaigns that you are producing? If you are a financial advisor, how many clients did you advise? How many reports did you write? So there is always something that we produce. There is no employee that just sits there and does nothing. So those elements are very, very much important. And these elements, thanks to data analytics and AI, can be easily understood, can be easily generated. I give you a very simple example. I worked in sales as a technical sales guy. And for me, my measurement is how many calls, how many meetings was I able to schedule with some of my clients. So there is always a number, Steve, that you can see and you can compare the two. And obviously, Steve, you can also enter into the equation seasonality. So of course, in let's say the end of the year, our product is being sold to many users, or we have a peak or we have a spike in our sales, for example. So that should be also taken under consideration. And this is where complex data tools are becoming extremely important for organizations, because they enable us to easily detect and see these things, how they work. So apparently, Steve, this is the way that I definitely see it and think about it. But obviously, I also would like to share this before we wrap it up, Steve, with our listeners. I always believe that in the future, we are going to have a more digital world than an offline world, because of the AI revolution that we're seeing, because of the robotic revolutions that we are seeing. So many of the tasks that we're doing are going to be controlled remotely. So even a factory worker, we are going to have a robot that does these tasks, and an expert engineer or a compliance individual or a factory manager is able to monitor using computer vision, using different technologies to see how the work is done in a very easy manner. For doctors, surgery can be done remotely using different robots and tools, etc. Because we have the best doctor, let's say, in a country, and there is a person who needs help in another country and they cannot travel because it's a sensitive surgery, and we can do that. So we're moving there. It's inevitable. We cannot escape from it. But I'm really, really a huge believer of profitability, of market share, of competitiveness. How much money is the company making in 2025 compared to 2024? And did the move back to the office make a difference in the stock price, in the market capitalization, etc.? And with finance, we can easily do that, Steve. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Any last words, Steve?
Yes, I think that we can say that there is not one size fits all in there. So, and it's not a matter of where you work, but it's more about how well we work. That would be my last words.
I love it, Steve. Always insightful. And what I would like to say is see everybody in the next episode. We're going to have a lot of fun. Thank you all for joining us. And what an amazing, beautiful day to be alive again.
Subscribe to Make Tech Work. That's all for you. It's our mission.
Let's go.
Thank you. Let's go.